at the stroke of the midnight hour as India ushers in the good and simple tax. That's what the Prime Minister is calling it. I've already started getting SMSs from SBI, ma'am, saying that you can pay your GST online via SBI. What does this now mean as far as the economy is concerned? What does it mean for State Bank of India?
Well, first and foremost, our technology platform and also our internal processes, they have already been tested and integrated with the GUI portal. I would also like to tell you that our internet banking platform, where this menu was made live after 11 p.m., it has already seen more than 1,000 visits and about 100 transactions already. Most of these, of course, appear to be small value transactions where customers appear to be trying the system out. But it does show that there is huge amount of interest and enthusiasm. In the meanwhile, of course, our customer sensitizing programs, both in virtual, social, all other medias, as well as through town hall meetings, customer meets are going on. I think, of course, that it is an enormous reform. As the Honorable Prime Minister said, it's not only a financial reform, but it's a social reform as well. And we can see that there is a lot of interest, and hopefully that this will be one of those, the really seminal kind of reforms that is done in the country.
Ma'am, you talked about the fact that you've already seen about 1,000 visits to the page and about 100 transactions being done on SBI's IT backend. There are concerns on whether the kind of traffic that we could possibly see, whether the systems will be able to cope with that. How confident do you feel about the IT system's robustness?
Oh, I think we are very, very confident. We have a lot of redundancy built in. We are calibrated for around 16,000 transactions per second. Currently, we don't do more than 6,000 transactions per second. So we have a lot of capacity, and I don't think it will be a problem.
One of the concerns which has been expressed by a whole range of voices on the program today has been that our tax administrators, our tax administration system is itself not ready. Do you buy that? Do you think that that's a genuine concern?
Look, the fact of the matter is nobody really knows, whether what they are saying is true or not. And it's always, easiest to express apprehensions. Of course, there will be hiccups. Of course, there will be difficulties. But again, as I said a few days back, I think, it's something that we'll be able to take in our stride. Recently, during the demonetization, if you remember, there was a lot of, talk about how difficult things will be. And even then, we had said from the banking system that we'll work through this, and we are sure that we can get across this. And we did it. So I think in this case, too, let us not be so apprehensive. Let us go forward and try to see how things can be worked out. Problems will be there. I'm sure we cannot say that there will be no roadblocks and no obstacles. But I don't think that they will be insurmountable.
You don't believe that the problems would be insurmountable. But Ms. Bhattacharya, specifically as far as the banking sector is concerned, one of the apprehensions is this business of multiple registrations. And the GST Council, unfortunately, for the banking sector, the telecom sector, etc., did not provide that relief. So that stays as of today. What is it going to mean now in terms of ease of compliance, in terms of ease of doing business specifically for the banking sector and for your bank?
See, the fact of the matter is this has to be addressed through IT. We have already registered ourselves in the various jurisdictions. It's a question of getting the right kind of IT in to enable us to pay the taxes in the right manner. We have been promised that there will be an effort to ensure that there is a single body that will actually do the assessments. If that is the case, then multiple registrations will not be that much of a difficulty. The main problem is we do not want to be assessed at multiple locations. Then it really becomes a difficulty. But that is something I think we have been promised that they are looking into it as to whether a body constituting of some people from the states and some from the center can be a single body for doing our assessments. So we hope to get that relief.
Important. You're saying that that assurance has been provided to you by the government, but we don't know whether this mechanism is going to come into place anytime soon. But Ms. Bhattacharya, you know, the Prime Minister said that this is not just an ambitious tax reform. This is a very crucial economic reform. If I were to ask you what this is going to mean as far as the economy is concerned, what would you say? How would you explain the economic benefits of this to the viewers who are tuning in?
Well, the first and foremost is, you know, in our country, the tax that comes from a limited number of people. In a country that is this large, 1.2 billion people, if you are going to have a tax-paying community that is very narrow, then it is very difficult to bring about development in the country. The wider the tax base, the lower can be the taxes. And the lower the taxes, the more efficient and the more competitive you will be throughout the world. And therefore, it is very important to get everybody into the tax net so as to ensure that there is no one class or no one set of people that are getting burdened more and more. And therefore, if everybody shares the burden, it becomes easy in respect of, you know, bringing about the right kind of development, etc., in the country. So to that extent, this is a very, very, what should I say, a path-breaking change that is going to happen. And we believe that this will result in the medium term, not even in the long term, but in the medium term, in bringing down of the taxation rates and better productivity and efficiency in the system.
You know, there was demonetization, which was announced in the month of November, and now GST is a reality. If you were to look at both these big, bold moves in combination, what kind of an impact do you see happening on the Indian economy, on the Indian ecosystem in the short term?
Well, one of the biggest impacts that this has done is bring out a lot of resources into the productive area. From the banking sector itself, I have repeatedly said one of the things that has happened is the amount of liquidity that we have got in the system. And we were thinking that much of this liquidity will drain out. It has not. Quite a bit of it is still in the system. So a lot of money that was actually sitting in cupboards and, you know, in people's drawers and purses, they have actually come into the system and can be productively deployed. The second thing is, of course, digital. And digital, the biggest advantage of digital is that it leaves a trail. And therefore, you can be sure that whatever is happening on the digital platform can be accounted for, can be audited, and therefore, you know, it is in the, I mean, it's not in a parallel economy, it's in the real economy. So to that extent, you know, the entire system becomes less corrupt, becomes more accountable, becomes more transparent. So all of these are huge benefits actually for a society that is aiming to become a developed country in the near term. These things, I think, are absolutely sine qua non, and they need to be available in a country that's aiming high.
A final question, ma'am, but it's a two-part question. Let me start by asking you about how you read the minutes of the Monetary Policy Committee, because the members of the Monetary Policy Committee also seem to suggest that they were waiting to see the impact of the GST, and hence it was a wait-and-watch approach that they took at the last policy. Do you believe that we could perhaps be closer to a cut in rates? And my second question, what do you see this doing to credit offtake? Do you believe that this is going to be disruptive in the short term, because credit offtake continues to be very sluggish?
Well, actually speaking, regarding the rate cuts, we do believe that we are trending towards one. Our inflation trajectory, whatever we have projected, they show that inflation for the entire year will, on an average, be below 4%. And therefore, obviously, you know, rate cuts is definitely, I think, something that we should look forward to. In respect of credit growth actually, you know, it's a function of very many things. And for us, the credit growth, especially in the investment arena, I think that will happen only when the capacity utilization of the capacities that are already implemented, when those come up to, say, around 75-80%. Today, in many of the core sectors, we are seeing capacity reach 70%. So it needs to go up a little more before we can actually see more and more investment coming in. But I think it is closer to us than it was maybe in the last 2-3 years. And therefore, I'm quite hopeful that by the middle of this year, that's the last 2 quarters of this year, we should see much better traction in credit growth.